Oh, Katniss, not everyone is against you. Many things are against you, but not everyone and everything.
Yeah, Peeta's like, I'm in love with you. And she's like, why is he saying this? Like, what do you mean? Why is he what?
Madge is like, oh yeah, Katniss is my best friend. And Katniss is like, yeah, I see Madge sometimes.
It's like in Meet the Robinsons when Goob is like, they all hated me. And it's this whole montage of people
Hey,
being,
Goob, you want to hang out after school?
I want to come to my birthday party? They all hated me. That's Katniss for sure.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I can't believe everybody hates me. Meanwhile, everyone has a positive experience with meeting her.
Yeah.
Like, Cinna loves her immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, that's weird. Anyway, like, God.
Hello and welcome back to the No Premise Podcast, the podcast that traditionally has no premise, except for today we do have a premise. And today joining me is a super special guest, our very first repeat guest on the podcast, Molly.
Oh, so excited to be here again.
First repeat guest.
I'm honored.
Keeping the tradition going strong, finding something new and exciting about every single guest. Unfortunately for Molly and myself, again, we are roommates. We live in the same apartment. We're both currently home. We are in our separate bedrooms because I spent like an hour and a half after work today trying to figure out how to get two microphones to work in the same space. I just think I didn't buy expensive enough equipment to make that work.
The day we figure that out, though, it's so over.
No, it's over.
Podcast game will be forever changed.
We're starting so many podcasts.
So many the day we figure it out.
So, apologies for that. But also, it's been 4 months since your last appearance. I maybe could have figured it out in that time instead of an hour and a half before we started recording. But as I suggested in today's intro, the No Premise Podcast has an official premise for one episode only for the very first time. Molly, what is that premise? What are we talking about today?
We're going to be talking about everything Hunger Games, but more specifically, Sunrise on the Reaping.
Yes, I have a saying that Molly and I talk about the Hunger Games repeatedly and at length. Like, we are doing this all the time. I feel like a good quarter of our conversations are just about the Hunger Games because we both love it so much. The world building is so rich. The new book came out in March, and we haven't even really discussed it yet with each other because we thought it would make good podcast content.
We've been holding back this conversation.
Yes, so we're about to go wild. It's going to be great. And I guess if you haven't read The Hunger Games, so again, just like last time, if you're my dad, I'm sorry. But I think it'll be a good conversation, so stick around anyway. Molly, you had a specific intro point to this theme of The Hunger Games that you wanted to do.
Yeah, so I often after work sit on my phone on TikTok for a while just to like decompress after a day of teaching students because I'm a teacher. And there was a TikTok that was like, put your most unhinged Hunger Games theory in the comments. I'm not talking like all of the names in the bowl were prims. I mean, the absolute darkest your mind allows you to go. Like, what is the craziest things? And I really expected the comments to be crazier than they were, but I did screenshot a bunch of them because I just simply wanted to discuss it with you and just see what your thoughts were on this. I think I know most of them, but I still want to talk about it.
Okay, I'm so excited. I also would just like to say up front, I think the every name in the bowl was Prim's theory is stupid. I hate it so much.
No, I do too, because also I think the coolest part about the Hunger Games or about like what Sunrise on the Reaping actually exposes in the original trilogy is that Katniss isn't this chosen one. She's not this destined person that is going to be the Mockingjay and lead this revolution, but it's that she's a normal person who just fell into circumstances that allowed her to do that. And it wasn't really this like divine intervention or like anything like that. It's one of my biggest issues actually with the new Star Wars sequels is that they made Rey, spoiler, they made Rey a Palpatine, which is dumb, instead of just allowing her to be a nobody that rises to the occasion, because I think that that narrative is so powerful. So I agree, actually, that I do not think that all the names in the bowl were prims.
And the other theories that are like, they like engineered it so Katniss would volunteer through like subliminal whatever, and there were cameras in the woods and they knew she could hunt. Like, no, nuh-uh.
No, no. The actual evil of these games is actually how not calculated that part is. About how they just pick kids and put them in an arena to die.
Yeah.
That's the evil part. Ugh. Anyway. Okay, so to go to the actual theories of the comments. First one, that there was a small act of rebellion in every single game that we don't know about because it's been covered up by the Capitol through editing or through like different narrative spinning, i.e. Thresh, Joanna, Haymitch, Reaper, etc. We know about them because we read the books that are from maybe perspectives of people who are witnessing it, like firsthand, like Katniss. But that like the audience has no idea that there's actually been small acts of rebellion in every game.
Yeah. No, I like that because, well, like you said, it goes back to as far as the 10th games with Reaper when he was trying to be respectful towards all the dead bodies and stuff. And they're like, we don't have grace and decorum in the Hunger Games. These are district savages. I bet that didn't make it onto TV. Or just, you know, the fact that they redacted the entire 10th games because of Lucy Gray's involvement. Which actually might have just been more Snow being heartsick or whatever versus Molly just rolled her eyes.
I just think Coriolanus Snow is the most melodramatic teenage boy, and I think he never grows up. I just think he's more vindictive. Sorry. That's my hot take. I think he just got his heart broken once and just is going to make it everyone's problem.
So, okay, so we know for a fact about, like, Reaper and Lucy Gray. And then, you know, we jump right to Haymitch. That's the next, like, in-depth games that we really see. I guess we hear about Wyrus's games in Sunrise on the Reaping, but, like, she didn't kill anybody. She didn't kill a tribute.
But is that not an act of rebellion in and of itself? That she outsmarted the own arena and the own game just to, like, she didn't, no blood got on her hands. She didn't become this savage that they wanted her to be.
But they can't cut that out. Because she won.
No, yeah.
And so it's like the whole narrative that for that one. But I'm thinking now, how did Haymitch get involved with this plot to blow up the arena or whatever? Beatty brought it to him. So do we think Beatty committed some kind of act of rebellion in his games 16 years earlier?
So one of the comments says Beatty won his games by blowing up the other tributes, but he was actually trying to blow up the arena way back then.
Oh.
And I thought that was an interesting point, too, exactly with what you're saying of Beatty the whole time has been trying to beat the game.
Which makes sense because he's from District 3. They're very intelligent. He probably has a more cerebral focus or knowledge base or whatever. Interesting. Yeah. No, I would buy that. I don't know if he was trying to blow them up. I thought he electrocuted them, but maybe that was part of... Anyway, doesn't matter.
Regardless, same train.
And then, you know, obviously... Well, Joanna's rebellion came after her games.
Okay, so another theory.
Am I just hitting on all the points?
Yes.
I haven't seen any of these.
So one of them is, someone wrote in the comments, my theory is Joanna was actually the first attempt to be the Mockingjay before Katniss. But Snow found out about the plan and killed her entire family, and also because she refused to be sold. So, like, she got the strength to be refused to be sold from, like, being the Mockingjay or, like, being involved in the rebellion. So, like, in retaliation, he killed her family and effectively shut her out. But I don't love that theory because wouldn't it just make her more rebellious? Because she has nothing to lose, but also...
Well, she kind of already is more rebellious because she has nothing to lose. She doesn't care about anything.
Right. And it also brings back this, like, Haymitch point of, I'm shocked Haymitch didn't get more involved in a rebellion. Because truly, what did he have to lose? He literally had nothing and nobody left.
Yeah. He was just too depressed.
Yeah, I really, while I was reading this book, I was like, it's going to be sad. I know there's going to be a lot of deaths. I won't get to touch anybody. I know they're going to die. And then I was just grossly sobbing. I was like, Suzanne Collins has hurt me so bad, but like I want it again. Like, no, give me another book. Like, no, break my heart again.
Yeah. I don't know if I buy into that one, the Joanna one, just because I don't know if she would have. I feel like Katniss was pliable enough to just like let them make her the Mockingjay. Like she was just so like, you know what, this is not in my control. Like if you want to perceive me that way, whatever, but I'm gonna go back to District 12 and do my own little humble Appalachian thing. I feel like Joanna just given who she is as a character, is way too outspoken and defiant, unless she became that way because Snow killed her whole family. I guess we don't know.
I also think that Sunrise on the Reaping adds such important context for just how revolutionary I've said this before, how revolutionary the moment in the first one was, where she takes the Nightlock berries and like her and Peeta effectively almost kill themselves. I feel like that is insanely revolutionary because it put Katniss in that Mockingjay spot. All of the stuff with Cinna did give her like a lot of ammunition for that and a lot of recognition, but without the win and without doing it in a defiant way, when do you think this revolution happens? If you don't have somebody that like really stirs the pot, like we see in the movie, but also in the books, we find out later that violence in the district spreads as a result of Katniss humanizing Rue when she dies. Katniss and Peeta's relationship and the defiance against the Capitol and all of that kind of stuff. If you don't have that and they have to show it because like you said, this narrative, and then she's the winner too, so you can't just like ignore. I mean, so is Peeta. Everyone always forgets. Peeta also won the 74th annual Hunger Games. Like, he also was a victor. But I don't know. All this to say is how lucky and revolutionary Katniss was, and she never wanted to be or meant to be. It's just naturally how she was as a person, which is why I think it's so luck-based and not chosen one. Because I think if you would have picked somebody from the scene that had that kind of, those kind of life skills, I do think that they could have also been the Mockingjay, or it could have been somebody from a completely different district. It didn't have to be 12.
I do think, though, that Katniss's complete happenstance of falling into that role is half of the reason that it worked. Because I think if you had a Mockingjay that was trying too hard to be involved, like, I feel like Katniss's like later Mockingjay defiance is very scripted, and I think Snow knows that she doesn't know everything that's going on and doesn't really believe in what she's saying, and he's kind of just letting her play it out because it's amusing or something. Like, but I feel like if you had like like if Gale was the Mockingjay for some reason and he was just like swearing out like the Capitol the entire time, he'd be like, just kill him right now.
I also think it is not coincidence, I guess, of her Covey lineage. I think the Coveys are the true, we talk about haunting the narrative all the time when we talk the Hunger Games. I think the Covey influence, especially in the original trilogy, in which the Covey family isn't really a well-known entity, I guess, or at least to Katniss. I'll talk about Katniss as a narrator in 2 seconds. They really are haunting the narrative, and I don't think it's really happenstance that she has some Covey lineage and also is the Mockingjay that brings about this revolution, because Lenore Dove, super revolutionary, put these revolutionary ideas in Haymitch's head, and even like Haymitch in the epilogue is like, Lenore, Sunrise never came up on another reaping, I did it. And then you even have Lucy Gray, who is also very revolutionary and like sings her song and is like, they're not gonna take me, like, I'm gonna be a person till I die. I don't know. I don't think it's a coincidence that the revolutionary thread throughout all 5 of these books is the Covey and their influence and their descendants and everything, because her father has Covey lineage, is the one who taught her how to shoot, is the one who taught her all of the natural herbs and berries and stuff like that, is the reason she even knew that Nightlock was poisonous. It all comes back to Covey and living off the land. The meadow song, the hanging tree, it all just revolves around this Covey thing. Sorry, I got on a soapbox, but I'm just really passionate.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right, and you should say it. Okay, did you have more comments on that one, or have I exhausted all your talking points on that one?
On that specific one, yes, but okay. The 75th Games wasn't meant to have a victor as punishment for the 74th having 2. That the plan was always for the Quarter Quell for all of them to die as like a symbol to Panem because they had 2 in the 74th.
That's crazy. That's crazy, because the victors are like Panem's sports stars, right? Like, they're athletes, they're celebrities, whatever. And I already feel like, and maybe I might be misrecalling this, but I thought in Catching Fire, when they're at like the interviews and stuff, you know, all the victors pretty much cede their interview time to being like, this is unfair. I already won. Why am I going back? And the Capitol is kind of like, wait a minute, they're right. Why are they going back? There are celebrities. There are sports stars. We love them. I think if they had killed every single victor in that arena, I think the uprising still would have happened. because it would have been like, so what's the point of these games if you can just willy-nilly choose to kill the people who win them?
Like shatters that illusion.
Yeah.
When you were talking about the interview, all I could think about was in the movie, it was like, oh, they're holding hands. I want them dead. I hear you on that for sure. But also, how much of the Capitol was like, oh my God, if it weren't for the baby, which PETA, incredible, love it. And they're like, if it weren't for the baby, oh my God, stop the Hunger Games. But how many of them, the second the game started, just tuned into the entertainment?
I mean, that's true. And I do think there's a fair amount of Capitol brainwashing going on. But I think if they got down to the end of the games, I guess I don't know how they would have killed off everybody. If they would have ensured that, like, if they, like, the final showdown happened in, like, the fog wedge, and so that both people were going to automatically die, or if it was one person is left standing and they just don't let them out, they don't come to pick them up, and then they just die in the arena based on like starvation or dehydration or injury or whatever. But I feel like if they got down to the last victor dying in the arena, I think that would have maybe taken like the veil off over some of the Capitol people's eyes. And, and I think it's, like I said, it still would have 100% like incited like riots in the districts. Especially for like the districts that only had like 2 or 3 victors, and then it's like, okay, they're all gone now.
They were all we had.
Yeah. Like now the games are going to keep going and no one is going to mentor our children and they're just going to keep dying anyway when before they had like a little bit of a chance.
Yeah. I do have one more I want to talk about, at least.
Hit me. Because
it's talking about our least favorite person, or at least my least favorite person.
Snow?
No, Gale.
Oh.
I don't agree with this one, but I do want to hear your takes.
Okay.
If Prim had survived, Gale would have tried to date her eventually.
Ew, no, I keep seeing this.
I don't think I hate Gale. Don't get that twisted. I am a Gale hater. I will not defend his actions. I will, however, defend the fact that that's not his thing. Was with Katniss.
Yeah.
He viewed Prim as a little sister.
No, I don't understand, because I've seen that one a lot, and I don't understand how people think that.
I think they think that, like, Gale was just obsessed with the Everdeen family and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, no, like, I don't know how to explain this. They just are looking for more reasons to hate Gale, which is crazy to me because there's so many. Like, I have so many. I'm just so confused why they have to, like, create this thing. Like, that's out of character. Did Gale design the bombs that killed Prim? Yeah. Hate him for that. Why you gotta be mad over a hypothetical that I feel is completely out of character?
Yeah, that's giving very big Jacob Black, Renesmee, Twilight vibes. Like, oh, I can't have like the age appropriate one, so I'll have the non-age appropriate one who happens to be related to the one that I really actually like.
No, you're right. And it's like a weird cop-out. I just don't think there's any world in which Gale does that.
Yeah. I've seen theories where they say that, because you know how I think it's in Catching Fire, or maybe it's in Mockingjay, in one of the later books of the trilogy, Gale tells Peeta, it's Mockingjay, Gale tells Peeta that he wishes he would have volunteered for him and gone into the arena with Katniss. And I think that if Gale had done that, and gone in with Katniss, because Katniss was going to volunteer no matter what, right? But if it was Katniss and Gale, I think Gale would have killed Katniss, 100%.
I actually do agree. I think he would have, because the Capitol did this whole like, oh my God, yeah, like partner thing, whatever. If like everything had played out the same way, and you get to the end, the second the Capitol is like, that's not a thing anymore, I think Gale goes to shoot. Like, I think Gale turns on her in that moment. I don't think he would have turned on her before that. But I do think he would have, in the second the Capitol was like, oh, there's been a change of plans. You can't win as a duo anymore. Whereas Peeta would never. And this is why I'm a Peeta defender. I love that man.
Yeah, 100%.
He would never. Okay, I lied. There's one more.
Oh, hit me.
Just because I want to yap about Snow.
No, I'm ready. I'm here.
This one says, Snow purposely left the District 12 fence without electricity in case Lucy Gray ever wanted to return. Shut up. No, he didn't. He has no clue the fence is not electrified, nor does he care. He is running an entire country. He is not respectfully, and I say this with all due respect, as somebody who loves Lucy Gray, and she's probably my favorite character in the whole series, he does move on. Like, he doesn't make every decision in his life fixating on his weird situationship girlfriend from like 50 years ago. Like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news here. Like, I love Lucy Gray more than the next girl. But like, it's the thing you brought up the other day that you were like, oh, Snow dresses the District 12 tributes in black because Lucy Gray wore a really colorful dress. It's like, media literacy is dead. Media literacy is dead.
Yeah, no, that's another one I don't like. And I understand when you write prequel novels, there is some necessary retconning that has to happen, right? Like, we didn't know anything about the Covey before Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but knowing about them in the prequels does not detract from them not being present in the main series because...
Yeah, are you going to say that Katniss doesn't know about them?
Well, yeah. But
yeah, like if we're in Katniss's brain, she doesn't even know they exist.
You could see it as like, oh, well, that's kind of cheap or whatever. But like, if you're going to do it, that's the way to do it, right? Yeah. Have it be a tradition, a lineage that just dies out. And we see in Sunrise on the Reaping, there are other things in District 12, like traditions and like cultural like happenings or whatever, that Haymitch experiences that Katniss doesn't get to a generation later because things just keep getting worse. Like I said, there's some semblance of retconning that's going to happen, right? And I don't know if this is intentional, but I know you've seen the Catching Fire clip where Haymitch is talking about Mags, and he's like, she's actually a wonderful woman. Like, it'd be really sad, you know, if she got abandoned and, you know, died a horrible death or whatever. And then you find out it's because, or ostensibly because she was his mentor in his games. He knows Beetee and Wyrus, and that's who Katniss gravitates towards. You could see that as like retconning and just being like, oh, Suzanne Collins is trying to like build these relationships and like, you know, hammer the point home and blah, 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 blah. But like that kind of thing, I think just makes the world building all the more richer.
Yeah.
Because you can read the main trilogy with that context or without it. And it like doesn't matter. You get the same points, but you see them in different ways. So all that to say, not everything is a retcon. Not everything has to be retconned. And Snow did not unelectrify the fence just because he thought Lucy Gray would come back. That would be an example of a bad retcon.
So here's my theory though, or my question for you. What is your theory on what happened to Lucy Gray? I know we purposely don't know. I know there's not a right answer. I hope Suzanne Collins never gives us an answer. Mm-hmm. But I want to know what you think happened to her.
I mean, I don't think she died. I think she just ran away, and she managed to get away by using was it the Jabberjays at that point? Or was it Mockingjays?
It was Mockingjays.
Oh, that's right. I think she managed to get away by using the Mockingjays as cover, singing her song, and to confuse Snow so he didn't know which way to look. And I think she just ran into like the deeps of the uncharted like forests of 12 or whatever and like lived out her days with like some nomad colony.
I respect that and also agree.
Oh, okay, good.
That's also what I think happened.
I definitely don't think Snow killed her. I think she was out of sight by the time he exited the cabin.
Yeah, I've reread that part multiple times. And I'm like, because there was somebody on TikTok that was like, oh, Lucy Gray totally died. Because like, that's why, is it Clark Carmine that yells not again when Lenore Dove's dying? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or one of them, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, where's it Tam Amber? I don't know. One of the Covey men yells not again when Lenore Dove is dying. And they're like, well, that's why they're saying not again, because like Lucy Gray died. I think the not again was actually in reference to Lenore Dove's mother, who died in childbirth.
Yeah.
That is a much clearer, makes more sense of a connection versus being like, yes, Lucy Gray. Because again, I love that girl down, but not everything goes back to her.
Mm-hmm. I just don't think she could have feasibly died in I don't know, what was it, like the 4 minutes between her leaving the cabin and Snow leaving the cabin, unless she like threw herself off a cliff and broke her neck. Like, yeah. I don't think she feasibly could have died in that time frame.
Or they're like, they think that Snow shot her.
But I don't think she was anywhere near shooting range at that point. I think she just totally disappeared. Maybe she even climbed a tree. Who knows? And like, he was shooting like upward and stuff too. But like, I don't know. I don't think she died. I think she is alive somewhere. And she's just presumed dead. Mm. At the present day point of the main Hunger Games trilogy, she probably is dead. Yeah. She'd be pretty old, living very off the grid without access to like medicine or anything. So she probably has died at that point. But I think she got out of there alive at the end of Ballad.
I am in agreement.
I feel like I thought of a theory I wanted to run by you while we were talking, and now I don't remember what it is.
I have more.
Oh, okay. Then keep going.
Oh, okay. Theory. Tigress used to buy Finnick, but she wouldn't touch him. She would just keep him safe from Snow. And that's why Finnick knows so many of Snow's secrets. Because Tigress, I don't know, maybe media literacy is dead for me too. Did Tigress sell herself to get like money and things? Because I think yes, but no, why am I not sure?
I think it is implied, but
Yes.
never outright stated.
Right.
It's very vague intentionally. Like where Snow has a fleeting thought like, oh, like we have all this food that we didn't have before, and Tigress looks really like worn out and like world weary. I wonder what that's about, you know?
Mm.
So yeah, I think at that point, yes, she was probably selling herself to just get by. I don't know if I buy that Tigress was feeding Finnick all of Snow's secrets. I always preferred the interpretation / had the interpretation that Finnick was just used by so many like upper crust capital society members that he could just like get them to reveal secrets in the throes of passion, and then he just built them up from like a number of people, and maybe even I don't know, but I don't think it was all coming from one source. Like maybe she did at one point and like didn't sleep with him or whatever, but like I feel like it's a more cunning move for Finnick to have gotten the secrets from a variety of sources, because then there's no way it can be traced back to any one person.
Right. No, I hear you on that.
Yeah. When do you think they started selling the victors to wealthy people for their bodies? Because that's like the one thing that Snow does not lay out in his plan for the games in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. We see at the end of that book, he sets up the betting and the early stages of like the interviews are in that book and the parade and whatnot. But like, that's like the one thing that we never get is how they started being sold.
I think around the second quarter quell is when, because we see Haymitch after he wins, he's like in a bird cage and people are like feeling him and stuff like that. I think that's the start of that. I think that's kind of the implication I got from it when I read it was, oh, he hasn't started selling them yet. Because why wouldn't he sell Haymitch? But like he hasn't started selling them yet. But this is going to maybe put that idea into his brain.
Yeah.
Like this idea of like that's something to do in the future.
Interesting.
I also don't know if he did it with all of the tributes.
Probably not all of them, but probably definitely the pretty ones.
That sounds awful, but
No,
yeah.
but it's true. Personally, I don't think, and I guess I don't know if there would have been like a statute of limitations on it, but like retroactively, I don't think he'd be selling off like Beatty and Wyrus and stuff. You know, it's probably just like the young hot commodity from that year.
Yeah. It's so messed up because they're like 15.
Yeah.
God, Snow's the literal worst. Okay, so there's a bunch on Bonnie and Twill, and I can't remember who the heck that is.
Okay, so those two, they were in the beginning of Catching Fire, and they were the refugees running away from District 8 towards District 13 before we knew that District 13 was real. And Katniss meets them in the forest that day, and then she ends up, you know, getting back and the fence is turned on and it's like this whole ordeal or whatever.
Yeah.
But because of that interaction, she like looks for clues of District 13 and then she finds out that it never was bombed after all. So they show up in like half of a chapter.
Okay, because like there's so many. One is like Bonnie and Twill were 100% spies. Nobody can tell me otherwise. Bonnie and Twill did make it to 13, but were tortured and killed by Coin. The boots Katniss wears when she gets to 13 and Mockingjay were the ones Bonnie adapted so she could walk with an injured leg. There's just a lot of Bonnie and Twill made it to 12, but Coin killed them. Just very fascinating.
I don't think it goes that deep.
I really didn't think so either. But then I also couldn't remember who they were. So I was like, dang, everyone has all these thoughts about Bonnie and Twill. Wow. I don't remember who that is.
I think they're mostly there as just like a... Like, they're kind of the point where Katniss starts taking things into her own hands and starts looking for clues of 13. And then you remember she goes home and she watches, like, the footage of, like, the smoldering ruins. And then that bird, like, keeps flying in the corner because it's just the same footage on a loop or whatever. Because I think they tipped her off to that or something. Yeah. And so maybe they make it to 13 and maybe they die and maybe they don't and we just never see them because there are a lot of people in 13.
And also, yeah, do you think Katniss gets there and she's like, where are Bonnie and Twill? Like when she wakes up in 13, she's not like, Where are they? These random people I met in the woods one time for one interaction.
Yeah, no. Katniss hardly has enough in her to care about the people she actually cares about.
Yeah, I said I would come back to this. Katniss is such a bad narrator. Like, after being in Haymitch's head, it's just really exposed to me how bad of a narrator she is because she's so hyper fixated on just like making it to the next moment. A detail misses her. She also is like, wow, is Finnick flirting with me or Peeta? That's crazy. Meanwhile, he's like so flirting with Annie and so clear that that's who he likes. And she's like, they're just such good friends. And it's like, God, Katniss, you're so oblivious.
That specifically is what clued me into the fact that, like, yes, when I was reading Sunrise on the Reaping, I was like, wow, Haymitch and Katniss are so similar. Like, they kind of like are the same, have like the same like pragmatism, the same approach to like figuring out, you know, solutions to things and their same upbringing and stuff. But also, Haymitch and Peeta are a lot alike in the fact that they notice things. I know for a fact, if we had been reading the first book from Peeta's perspective, he would have like told us the names of every single tribute. He probably would have gone around at the different stations and like found out like facts about each of them. Like, oh yeah, and so-and-so's got like 3 sisters at home. And this person wants to be an architect when they grow up.
But I also think that another difference too is that Peeta didn't see himself as a killer. Peeta didn't really think he had the capacity to win. And so to him, learning those facts about those people was what was making them human and making him be like, I'm not a piece in their games. But to Katniss, she's all about survival. So learning those details is going to make it harder to kill the people.
Yeah, that's true.
She purposely was like, I want to know as little about these people as humanly possible because I got to get back to Prim.
Yeah.
Whereas Peeta was like, I'm not going to win. Like, he even has that whole monologue about like, you know, my parents finally said there's finally going to be a victor from District 12, but they weren't talking about me. They were talking about you, Katniss. He truly thought he had no chance. So he's like, you know what? It's fine. Katniss is going to win, but I'm going to make sure that I know these people as people.
Yeah. I assume you had another thing to say.
Oh, I just want to talk about Sunrise on the Reaping more. And not just like these theories that connect to Katniss and all of that, but I want to talk about Sunrise on the Reaping like in its entirety.
Yeah, okay.
I have a lot of takes and a lot of feelings.
Okay. I don't. I mean, I have feelings. I don't have takes. I just liked it. It was good and I liked it. So if you have takes, bring them up and then we can talk about them together.
Is that how conversations work?
Yeah, actually.
Oh, okay. There were just little moments slipped in there that were just so emotionally devastating. Haymitch is depressed. And like, I feel like he was a little depressed before the Hunger Games because like he would just say something like, and I'd be like, oh, damn. Something that Suzanne Collins put in there when he was like making the alcohol about, oh, I don't drink, shattered my heart. Because we know that now for like the next 20 years, all he does is drink.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting. I want to talk about the end of the games.
Okay.
Haymitch won, been given a diet of milk and bread because he's been in an arena full of poison. And he gets back and the timing of everything. If you're Snow and you're going to kill Haymitch's family, why would you not do it when Haymitch isn't around?
Yeah.
And why would you do it in a way that's a fire? Why is that your way of doing it to make it look like it's an accident?
Probably. My thinking was, I guess I always assumed from when we learn in the original trilogy that Haymitch's mom, brother, and girlfriend all died after he got home from the games. I assumed that meant he got like a week with them. And then Snow just unceremoniously killed them. And so he thought he would be in the clear, and then he wasn't.
Or I thought he would live with them, have a couple of years, and then Haymitch doesn't do something that Snow wants, or Haymitch's tributes do something in the arena that makes the Capitol look bad, or something like that. And it was as like a direct punishment of his actions, not his actions in the games, which was very, very interesting to me.
I think, yeah, the timing is weird because it's literally like down to the minute. Like he's walking up the driveway to his house and he sees the smoke pretty much.
Right. And then everyone in the neighborhood's like, oh, we've been trying already. There was no water in the cistern or whatever. Devastating, by the way. Devastating.
But then my thought is too, like the fire. I mean, obviously we know it was a manufactured fire. It must have been set in a ring of gasoline around the house if there was no way for Haymitch's mom and brother to escape. You know what I mean?
Right. Or they like nailed the doors shut or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like don't giggle at that.
No, you made me think of that episode of SpongeBob.
I was also thinking of that episode of
Or they're
SpongeBob.
like, and we glued all the doors shut and replaced all the windows with rubber. That's what they did. They glued all the doors shut and replaced the windows with rubber.
Yeah, Snow actually himself had a little thing of rubber cement. Remember those things? Those stinky little bottles? And Snow...
Stinky? No, they smelled amazing.
Rubber cement.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, why does stinky have to be derogatory, though? It has a stink. But, like, why stink bad?
I don't know. I guess I would use scent in a more positive light.
Sure, but if I said they were smelly, you also would have been like, no, they smelled good. Yes, they smelled good because there's a very distinct smell.
Okay, whatever. I liked the smell.
Okay, fair. You're just over there huffing rubber cement in elementary school.
I was very discreet about it.
Everyone's doing their art projects and you're over here. No, but I do like to imagine Snow like sitting on his butt on the ground, just slowly gluing the door shut.
Wearing like all camo or something to blend in.
But in all actuality, he just murdered them. So great.
Yeah.
And then like literally the next day murders Lenore Dove. Oh, damn. Double homicide. Well, triple homicide.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy work. Hamish doesn't get a chance to breathe. Obviously, Lenore Dove's death is orchestrated. How does he know? How does he know gumdrops are their thing? How does he know that Hamish sent gumdrops? Was it planned that Lenore was being starved at the Peacekeeper Detention Center? How planned and orchestrated really was this?
Well, I think you just inadvertently hit on your answer. I think he probably had the Peacekeepers inform him of her condition, or he ordered them to not feed her. And he probably has spies in his ranks or whatever in District 12 and finds out, oh yeah, and the girl keeps going on about this bag of gumdrops that the boy got her. And then he's like, oh, okay, I can do gumdrops, you know. I just feel like that's the way to do it. And this, I want to say, is the only time I think Snow cares this much about District 12. I know what we said earlier about the whole fence thing and the cameras and the rigged reaping.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care. Meanwhile, we're like, so down to the meticulous detail.
I think at this point, because Snow is older, he's made a lot of enemies at this point in his career because he was poisoned intentionally. He poisoned himself earlier in the book, right?
I was under the impression that throughout his life, when he wanted to kill somebody, he would poison them, but also poison himself, which is why he's so sick in Mockingjay.
But I think that's the start of like this lifelong illness because he probably has like so many stomach ulcers or whatever.
Get that man some Tums.
I feel like this is maybe the last time he meddled so deeply. Because we know he was doing it with Beatty, right? Because Beatty, you know, was rebelling but also like working for the Capitol and then he, you know, reaped Ampert or whatever. So like, I feel like this was maybe like his last hurrah, specifically because Hamish reminded him he had a girlfriend in District 12 once.
He's like, oh crap, I forgot.
Well, if I didn't get to have a covey girl, no one will.
Joke's on everyone, PETA will, because he's the king. But the thing about this, though, and I agree with what you're saying, I do think he does care this much, though, when he has a clear target in mind. When somebody does something that he deems unforgivable, and then, like you said, the Beatty and Ambert thing. I don't think he has one in District 12 until Katniss. They literally say this, I think, in Catching Fire, or Joanna Mason says this, that they can't do anything to Prim because she's so beloved by, like, all. Mm-hmm. Like, the Capitol loves her and everything, and so the optics are impossible. Whereas with Sid and Hamish's mom, the optics are not impossible.
Yeah.
And so it's like, let's just kill them and Lenore and just whatever. Joanna's family. Let's kill all of them, whatever. There's no narrative that the Capitol and the citizens of Panem relate to. Mm-hmm. Whereas like Prim is because of how public the volunteering is, which is again Katniss stumbling into being lucky, which is why I want to bring up Hamish's discussion of this. Was Katniss just the luckier version of Hamish, which is crazy to consider Katniss lucky.
Yeah.
Because she goes through the worst, like not the worst period, but just really awful stuff, and will have PTSD for the rest of her life because of everything that she goes through. Mm-hmm. And PETA gets freaking tortured with tracker. Ugh, my baby. He gets tracker jacker poisoned and tortured. But is she just lucky? Is she lucky that the reason she goes into the games was volunteering for her young sister? So it immediately put her sister in the spotlight, which protected her.
Yeah.
But in the end, I also think that's what killed her.
Yeah.
I think the spotlight protected her throughout the books. Oh, well, we can discuss this. Did Coin know Prim was going to be there? 100%. I think Coin purposely killed Prim to turn Katniss the final way against Snow. Because I see all these TikToks and theories on Twitter and everything that like, oh, Snow and Coin underestimated Katniss's love for Prim. No, they didn't. That was the most clear, obvious thing. What Coin underestimated was Katniss's relationship and respect for Snow. And Snow, likewise, his relationship and respect with Katniss. Like, she was like, they hate each other. I'll do the final thing that will make sure Katniss will never, ever, like, side with Snow. Because I know he's super manipulative and whatever. But, like, that's what did it for Coin. That move, trying to beat Snow at her own chess game, worked to win the revolution, but it's the reason Coin lost her life. But again, the spotlight is what saved Prim throughout all of this, throughout everything with Snow, but that's inevitably what got her killed. Snow even says that the optics of killing all of these capital children and the medics of District 13, he could have never come back from that, especially when it looks like it's coming directly from the Capitol. And the use of the Hunger Games thing like really hammers home those who don't have media literacy, the connection between like war and the Hunger Games and all of this stuff. Snow could never come back from that. But neither could Coin because she miscalculated that Katniss is going to actually believe what Snow says and that Snow is right.
I can tell you're a teacher.
Oh, sorry.
No, yeah. that was good. I wanted to segue into something that I've always had a question about that I don't think we've talked about yet. When someone is reaped, like, so Prim, for instance, right? Prim gets reaped, but then is replaced by Katniss as a volunteer. Does that mean, I guess I just always assumed once your name is drawn, it's drawn. But her name would have to go back into the reaping bowl the next year, right? If it was a traditional Hunger Games, or does it not? Because she's already been picked.
No, I think so. But also, like, does Katniss's go back in there? Because, yeah, she won, but she's still 17 in the district.
No, I think once you're a victor, you get taken out.
So, like, then you're taken out.
Like, even if you're a volunteer, even if you weren't officially reaped.
I feel like it was mentioned somewhere, and maybe I'm crazy, that, like, the families are exempt as well. Because they, like, live in Victor's Village if they're, like, we talked about this, if they're dependents. So, like, yeah, I don't know if Prim would have been put in there. But then also there's this theory that, like,
well, no,
because Porterquell would have been the family members of Victor's or something.
Because I don't think family members are exempt if they're still reaping eligible, because Gloss and Cashmere, the siblings from District 1, were
the son of Beatty.
Yeah, exactly. And probably other Victor's kids that we just don't know about. Because Katniss says that. She's like, how many other Victor's kids have been reaped? And that's why she like doesn't want to have kids.
If only she ever asked a question. If only she ever gathered intel and details for the readers.
But it wouldn't have been nearly as interesting if she was a better narrator.
She's an intriguing narrator and a very interesting character as well. So yeah, 100%. Let's talk about the Sunrise on the Reaping movie.
Okay.
Number one, I'm seated. The movie theater employees are like, Molly, the movie hasn't premiered yet, but I'm simply too seated.
You've been seated for so long, they've learned your name.
Yes, exactly. We're on a first name basis with the movie theater employees. But I've been very pleasantly surprised. I don't know why I ever doubted the Hunger Games casting director, because they really haven't missed. But like, I really have enjoyed the casting announcements thus far.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I had not heard of Haymitch or of Lenore Dove prior to their. I've known of Lenore Dove's actress. Forgive me, I don't know the name off the top of my head. She's really close to Sabrina Carpenter, and I love Sabrina Carpenter. So like I've tangentially known of her, I guess, but I haven't. It's not like I'm, oh yes, I've seen all of her movies and TV shows. So I'm so glad they're like nobodies.
I was gonna say, I've been pleasantly surprised because, look, I've seen a lot of really good fan casts on like Twitter and TikTok and stuff, and none of them have come true yet. But the replacements, I guess, for these fan casts are like really good. So I'll be curious to see if anybody predicted anything.
Nasally Downer was absolutely a fan cast that I've seen many people do.
Oh, fair enough.
Maya Hawke as Wiress shook my core. I was like, what? Like that got me a little, for sure.
I like it.
I like it too. I'm just saying I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
Because that's a name I recognize. So I was like, what?
Yeah.
So I saw a TikTok. Classic. How many times can Molly bring up TikTok she's witnessed about the Hunger Games?
I think I'm going to name this episode So I Saw a TikTok.
So anyway, about the Hunger Games casting, and it's a theory. And I won't tell you my opinion, actually. You can draw your own conclusions.
Oh, boy.
It says the Hunger Games casting jobs are insane. They gave us 4 characters first, the amount of tributes from each district in the Quell. Then they made us wait 18 days for the next drop. That's how long Katniss and Peeta were in the arena.
Wait. Who was the 4th? Haymitch, Lenore Dove, Maisie Lee. I think that was it.
Maybe they're lying.
Okay, I already don't like this theory, but please keep reading.
So yeah, made us wait 18 days for the next drop. That's how long Katniss and Peeta were in the arena. Beetee and Wiress were announced at midnight and noon. I've seen a lot about that. When the lightning strikes the arena and the Porterquell. They just dropped Mags at 3 p.m. Central. 2 to 3 was the poisonous fog. But then somebody said, no, they dropped it at 4, which is her district. What do you think? I feel like this is far-fetched. This is like when people look at Taylor Swift and they're like, this is how I know Reputation will come out next week. And it's like the craziest thing. And it's like, no, she's not doing that.
I think the Beetee one was intentional, being at midnight.
The Beetee Wiress thing?
Yeah, that one makes the most sense to me. I've also seen someone being like, oh man, that poor social media intern accidentally hit 12 a.m. instead of p.m. for their scheduled post, which would also be funny if that was true. But yeah, no, that reads a lot like you said, like the Taylor Swift speculation, which I have been known to come down on. But what was I going to say? I was just going to say something else. Oh, I want a timestamp that this day that we are recording is the day that the Wiress and Mags casting did get announced. So this is very fresh, hot news.
Yes. What casting announcement are you most nervous for that hasn't happened yet?
Nervous?
Or interested, I guess?
I mean, I want to know who's going to play Snow because we all think it should be Kiefer Sutherland. I understand if he doesn't want to do it, that's fine. Ralph Fiennes, also a good choice. Jason Isaacs, also a good choice.
There was 4. Plutarch.
Oh, yeah. Duh. Okay.
Sorry, it just hit me. I was like, no, wait a second. There was 4.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I want the Snow casting. I think I'm intrigued for, like, the kids. Like, the little kids. Like, Ampert, Sid, Haymitch's brother, Welly from District 6, Lulu, / Luella.
I want the Luella Lulu casting so bad because I want to know if they're going to be the same actress or different. Mm-hmm. I'm so intrigued.
I also want to see Wyatt's casting because I've seen a lot of really good fan casts of people casting like an Indigenous actor to play Wyatt because of District 12's like Appalachian roots and stuff. And I think that would be a really interesting
be really into that
take on it and probably the correct take, let's be honest. Mm-hmm. So I think that'd be cool. That could definitely kickstart some young actor's career. I also think, and I was excited for this about Mag's casting too. I kind of want to see their escorts casting Drusilla, just because I feel like there's a weird amount of roles in this movie for being a young adult movie for like older females, like Mags and Drusilla, and like Haymitch's mom for the brief moment she shows up. You know what I mean, though? Like, women in their 50s are going to be having a moment. And I love that for them.
Okay, what do you think of Elle Fanning as young Effie Trinket?
No, I love it.
I want that fan cast so bad. Everyone keeps being like, Elle, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. They're calling you, Elle.
If there has to be one fan casting that comes true, I hope it's that one.
So do I. I also loved the thing they talked about, and we've talked about it before with like the original movies, of like the people in the Capitol are all like really well-known names, like Stanley Tucci, like people that are like household names, and then like the district people are like random people.
Speaking of Stanley Tucci, real quick, why would they recast him? I've seen people be like, oh yeah, like I hope they cast Kieran Culkin as Caesar Flickerman. Why would they recast Stanley Tucci? He's already supposed to be having a ton of plastic surgery anyway. Like, he probably looked the same. I don't understand why we have to recast him.
Get this man on board right now. I'm with you.
Anyway.
I'm with you fully and completely. Yeah, I want Elle Fanning. That's who I think would be really good. I agree with you with wanting the snow casting. I'm so afraid.
Yeah.
So afraid. I fear I'm going to be disappointed. But I was a little skeptical of Tom Blythe, and I was wrong. Mm-hmm. He did incredible. So I guess in Lionsgate we trust. Mm-hmm. In the Hunger Games casting director we trust, because they eat it up every time, and I need to not doubt them.
Yeah. I hope we get like a big Variety article soon with just like a bunch of like little castings. Because I think that happened for Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. They like announced the casting of like all the tributes and all like the Capital University mentors or whatever. So that's, 24 tributes, 24 mentors. That's 48 people that they just announced all the casting for, even for the ones that like didn't have any lines pretty much. So I'm hoping for a good Variety article to just cover all the bases.
When do you think these like casting announcements, which like give the editing team their props, it's such a fun like way to announce it. When do you think they're gonna be like done with them? When will we know when they're done with them?
Probably when they start filming, which I think is in like July.
Oh yeah, I guess fair. I like for some reason
the movie comes out next year, Molly.
I know. And so I was like, oh, crazy. They'll start filming it. Anyway, how long can it possibly take to make a movie? Like in Schitt's Creek where they're like, how much could a banana or like a gallon of milk cost? Mm-hmm. Like, how long could it take to possibly film a movie? Turns out a while.
Yeah.
I'm so interested. The other thing, and because it's been a trend and like a controversy with like Wicked and a bunch of other movies, is color grading. I'm interested aesthetically in this movie so much because like what aesthetics are they going to pull from for this with the clear aesthetics of Ballad and then like the clear aesthetics of the Hunger Games? Like we've talked about this, like the 30s, 40s vibe of Ballad, and you have like I don't know, how would you describe the Hunger Games? It's like
just like dystopian, near dystopian.
Yeah, I was gonna say weirdly kind of like futuristic, I guess.
Yeah. I'm
very interested to see where they go aesthetically, but the color grading. Haymitch describes this arena as so bountiful and so full of color, and I'm so nervous that it's gonna kind of be like Wicked, where it's like, just a quick announcement. I do not hate the Wicked movie. You Wicked fans do not come at me in the comments. Do not find me and hunt me down and be like, so you hate women. I do not. I just feel like the movie could be lit better and show the world of Oz as more colorful and more exciting, because The Wizard of Oz was the first movie in Technicolor. And that was like this huge advancement in the making of films. Anyway, all this to say, I'm worried they're going to like backlight or make it like not very colorful. And I'm just worried that's going to like annoy me enough that it'll take me out of the cinematic experience.
I'm not worried because I think Ballad was very well done. So
I agree. But sometimes when I'm watching the first Hunger Games movies, I get dizzy or get headaches because it's so like jostle.
That's
and
just the first one.
No, I agree. I'm just saying, forgive me for loving. I like this book better than I liked the Ballad book.
Yeah, probably me too.
So I'm nervous.
I have full faith in this team, and I think it's going to be great. It better be great because they announced it so far in advance. They announced the movie when they announced the book, which was like a year and a half ago.
That was crazy work. Like, no, let's discuss that. What? That's crazy. Not a single like reception on the book. Book's not even written yet at that point. And they're like, so a movie? Suzanne, get that bag.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah.
In Suzanne we trust, for real.
Yeah. That's the title of the episode.
In Suzanne we trust.
Also a double meaning because my mom's name is Suzanne.
I have one more thing.
Okay.
I want to talk about if there should be a third book.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Because you have the original trilogy, and then you have this weird prequel-y series of Ballad and then Sunrise on the Reaping. Do you think there's going to be a third book?
I think it could go either way because Suzanne Collins has also written another series for middle grade readers, Gregor the Overlander. That is a 5-book series. So I think she could just end it here and be like, now I have 2 5-book series. Or we know that Suzanne Collins likes to write things in the 3-act structure. given that all the books are divided into 3 acts, 3 parts. There's an original trilogy. I think it would also make sense for her to finish a prequel trilogy. I don't know when that would be placed. My problem with a final prequel book to round out the prequel trilogy is not whether or not it exists, whoever narrates it. It's when is it going to be placed in relation to the Hunger Games? Because we only have 25 years to work with, and we know a lot more about the last 25 years of the games than we did from 10 to 50. And so back to my retconning thing, I'm afraid that it would be too retconny. Like, it would be too much trying to change the narrative that we're already familiar with.
Yeah. I hear you on that. Also, she's done all District 12 victors. So, like, that story is kind of told, and the story of the revolution is the story of District 12. However, I think if you do a third book, it's from Plutarch's perspective, and you do him, like, in the rebellion. Because we only know about the rebellion from, like, Ballad, a little bit of, like, Lucy Gray being like, this is bad, and, like, that book is less about the beginnings of the rebellion and the revolution, and more so about how Snow comes to power. Sunrise on the Reaping is kind of this rebellion's been going on. There is a revolution. There is a framework that has been building. It just hasn't gotten enough steam and enough power to actually do anything about it. I want to see Plutarch balancing District 13 and Snow in the capital and like how he gets fully involved with all of that, more so than in 50 or in Sunrise on the Reaping in the 50th Hunger Games.
Yeah.
And I want the book to end with the reaping or like him in 13, because we don't hear about Plutarch till Catching Fire.
Yeah.
I would love him to be like with Coin or somebody when Katniss has the berries. And there's a moment where they're like, now hang on now. This could be something. Or in the moment they hear about all the unrest in 11.
Yeah.
Like, I want that book to end and it's like okay, now you can realistically, the story continues and you know everything.
Yeah.
Because we know nothing about like how 13 survived the history really of that. We know like bits and pieces, but like how much of an existing situation is the revolution? Get to Haymitch, it sounds like Beatty's like, I don't know, blow it up, I guess. And we're like, oh, okay, cool, let's go. I don't know why he has an accent, ignore me. But like, there's no idea that there's this entire army and district behind it. So, like, how long has that been in place? How many contacts do they have in Panem?
Yeah, you're right. That's the way to do it, I think. That's probably the most underexplored area. I feel like some people are always like, oh, give us, like, a career Victor book. But, like, we don't want to read about them. They're, like, kind of the bad guys. I don't want a Finnick book. I don't want an Annie book. I think their story has been told enough. Yeah.
Like, I think we've gotten from their story what we needed to have gotten from them.
Yeah.
And like, that hurts my heart because I love Finnick and wish we got more of them. But I just like, I feel like that's the perspective of the revolution, the organization of it, that I think is the only thing really missing from this whole scale revolution.
Yeah, I would agree. Although selfishly, I would love a book from Peeta's point of view. Just as the only District 12 victor whose story isn't told from their point of view. Like, he's obviously, like, he and Katniss are, like, equal partners in coverage, page time, or whatever in the original trilogy. Like, they're, like, you can't have one without the other. But I would selfishly love a book from Peeta's point of view.
Yeah, selfishly, me too, because I truly love him so much. I'd love to just be, like, inside of his character's head for a book, but... yeah, I maintain that the most realistic one that is like the story of the revolution not told is Plutarch. Because I think Peeta's story is Katniss' story.
Yeah.
And I think Peeta genuinely would be fine with that.
You're probably right.
He loves her so much, Olivia.
I know. Okay. On that note, we've said a lot of things in this podcast, but it's time to wind it down. So, Molly, do you have any recommendations for our listeners out there? I feel like it'd be very hard to not just recommend The Hunger Games. If you haven't read The Hunger Games, what are you doing?
And also, how did you listen to this entire podcast of us bouncing around topics and tossing out names and you're like, what's happening?
Yeah, this is kind of a really unwieldy like conversation roadmap, so I'm sorry. But do you have any recommendations for the listening audience at home?
I have recommendations that are not movies or books. I have an album that has nothing to do with The Hunger Games. It's just an album I've been obsessed with recently, and I just want more people to read it. So I'm a Kendrick Lamar fan, and I'm going to see his concert at the beginning of June. So I'm going to recommend his new album, GNX. If you're somebody who loves to like go into things super in depth and look for like symbolism and meaning in things, kind of like we just did for the last however many minutes this podcast ends up being, I think that is a very fun album. There's a lot of references and pop culture and hip hop references and a lot of really deep things going on, but also, in my opinion, it's one of Kendrick's most fun albums too. So that's my recommendation.
I should never have introduced this segment because I never know what to recommend. And I was thinking about it on the way home. I was like, how abstract do I want to get with my recommendations? Like, where they're like not tangible things anymore. But I was like, no, it's too early in the year for that. I'll use that as a fallback for like November or something. So I am instead going to recommend the practice of rewatching a show you have not watched in a long time. Because I recently started rewatching How I Met Your Mother, and it's very fun, and I love this show, and I forgot how much fun it is.
Like the comfort of like, you know how the show ends.
Yeah. So that's my recommendation. Find a show that you haven't watched in a long time and just start from the beginning. Little treat.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right. Well, Molly, thank you for joining me once more onto the breach on this podcast. Thank you for being my very first ever repeat guest.
First guest and first repeat guest. I've never been more honored.
I'm sorry I couldn't figure out the technology and we had to be in our separate bedrooms for the last hour and a half.
Hey, third time will be the charm.
You're right. I'll figure it out. I'll get there. To all the listeners at home, thank you for listening to the No Premise Podcast. Hopefully I will see you back here next month with another conversation and another friend. Thank you for listening to this episode of the No Premise Podcast. This podcast is hosted, edited, and produced by Olivia Kroner, aka me. Music courtesy of Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. See you next time.